to the Exchange Place podcast. And today, I got a heavy hitter with me, y'all. Say what's up to the people.
Hey, people. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's feeling well.
Yes. So we got Brenda Phillips, a.k.a. B, in the building. Now, I always got to give a little bio about the people that sit across from me in this table or even come sit in this room of not only who they are with what you do, because I think you're amazing. Let me just say that, right? You are a creative. You are the owner of Miss We Care, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. You are owner of a clothing line, Be Inspired, which I love.
Thank you.
And most of all, you know what I love about you is your heart. I love that the first time that I met Brenda, y'all, I swear, you know how they say that you can see people's heart? I literally saw your heart.
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
It's so true.
It's too early to be making me
cry. You can't cry yet. You can't cry yet. You can't cry yet. But I met you in a hiking group.
Yes.
And unbeknownst to, I think, both of us, I never expected our connection to be what it was.
Right.
Or what it is and
what
growing.
Yes.
And it's just so amazing to see not only your heart, but see how much you do for the people and the children. I know that you're in the school systems a lot, always giving back to the kids. You're a philanthropist. You're just amazing. I can't say enough about that. And most of all, you are my sister from another mister.
Yes, yes.
And I love you.
Thank you.
And I thank you for coming to the space, because it's not an easy space to come to.
I came, tied up my bootstraps. I'm here.
I know that's right. And you came for, this month is May. Mm-hmm. And this month we are dedicating to mental health awareness. Mm-hmm. And also women.
Yes.
So we are celebrating women this month. It's Mother's Day this month. So I just thought it would only be appropriate to have you on the show to talk about mental health, to talk about therapy. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. It's part of why the podcast even exists. I think back in 2019, I really started, probably 2018, going into 2019, I really started dealing with mental health, right? Issues, which I had always struggled with. But I think for our community, and I'll talk about that because it's the only thing that I know about, I think it's like almost a taboo.
Absolutely.
And I had to realize like some of the things and some of the issues in my healing process came from childhood trauma, came from, I lost two sisters. My oldest sister passed away before I was born. I've gone through a lot of loss, and nobody kind of ever putting attention towards it or ever me even thinking that anything was wrong.
Right.
There was almost a normal about that. My sister, when I was 12 years old, my sister died in my arms, which was, again, I think about that now as a 40-something-year-old woman, right? And how traumatic, if that happened to my child, what would be the recourses that I would take, and where, you know what I mean? What would be the resources that I looked
How would you
into and service a child who had experienced that trauma, right? And I never had that. So I was just like, wow. So this podcast is dedicated to the people that feel like they suffer in silence. And I know from conversations that we've had that you understand that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just I first want to talk about like therapy in our community.
Right.
And what's your take on that? Like,
I think that for so long, therapy has been something that has been stigmatized. Like, oh, like, what's wrong with you if you go to therapy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what's wrong with you? And sometimes people don't understand that it has nothing to do with what's wrong. Sometimes you just want to maintain a level mindset and a level headspace or whatever. However, our community definitely struggles with so many traumatic things, but it is so normal.
I know.
Because it's so normal, and because it's something like, that's we wake up to that has been normal, we don't know how to service that part of us.
Yeah.
I would say for me, myself, I'm the first person in my family to kind of seek the help and do the things that I'm doing, I come from a long line of generational trauma.
Wow.
I'm talking about from like my grandma and my grandma's grandma, like, and I hear the stories, So I come from a very long line of generational trauma. But what I will say about therapy is now, thank God, that it is becoming a thing for people of color, right?
Yeah.
It's becoming a thing for people of color. So now we do have resources. We do have the things to where as though, and opportunities and stuff where people are opening up their doors, and there's even free therapy services out there. There's a lot of resources out there for us currently. You just have to look for it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think, again, when I say the normal of that, and this is a story that I think I thought was so normal my whole life. I mean, I think me and you have had this conversation before, but so my dad was in the war, the Vietnam War. And I remember as a child, he would go through what now I know as PTSD, right? Episodes where he would literally lock himself in the closet with a gun.
It's heavy.
Right? And I think about that and I'm just like, but that was very normal to me. In that space that would happen, we would just kind of, you couldn't go in the room. And especially men, I mean, and not to take, but I think men suffer in silence so much. They don't know how to reach out. I don't know that my dad was, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, but I just feel the importance of kind of sharing those things. And I know we always have to be mindful whether people are here or not, but it's my story. You know what I mean? It's what I experienced and what I knew as normal.
Right.
And processing that, and I think about that growing up, like, how is that normal? Almost like somebody who grows up in addiction, a family that has addiction, and oh, when uncle or auntie is high, she's just high. You know what I mean? And you just kind of put that, and again, that's normal. And it's not normal.
Absolutely.
And what I found, I think I had always, struggled with depression as a child. And I know now I can say, oh, that came from I lost my sister, and that was never processed. Last year, I had an interesting conversation with my mother because in my house, you didn't go to therapy, you went to church. And I know the sigh, right? And as much as I love the Lord, I love God, and I understand the power of God. I think that God also gives us wisdom. Mm-hmm. And he gives us resources to actually tap into. And I don't necessarily think that, my mother knew, our parents can only give us what they know to give.
Yeah.
Right? And similar to what you kind of said is like, I come from, my mom lost 3 children. I can only imagine what that did to her. You know what I'm saying? And she only gave me probably what was given to her because that's all she had to give. So she probably didn't know what to do, and neither did my dad know what to do with the trauma. It's just like act like everything's okay. So I was the person who was always okay.
Mm-hmm. So, it's funny, just talking about generational trauma, like, I'll go a little bit back for myself. So, like, I am someone, both of my parents was addicted to drugs. Mm-hmm. My mother, and it took me to be an adult. I was a very angry teenager. I'm talking about angry. I'm not half of the woman that I am now.
Me too. Whew. I get it.
Let me tell you something. I look back and I did not like the young lady that I was. Mm-hmm. I was very angry. I mean, not to take away that I didn't have reasons to be, Yeah. I felt abandoned. I didn't have my mother. I didn't have my father. I went to 4 different high schools. Like, I dealt with sexual trauma. I dealt with physical abuse. You know what I'm saying? I dealt with the mistreatment. And to overcome that, a lot of people say, like, oh, you're so strong. So I'll share this. It's so funny. I'm having this conversation. So, a couple of weeks ago, I seen my aunt. Nobody in my family knows that I deal with some internal battles. Literally nobody. When I tell you nobody, never had a conversation with anybody in my family or anybody close to me about it because I come from that church background, right?
Yeah.
So
where they cover.
Yes, and the thing about it is I never had that conversation with my aunt who has been very instrumental in my life. She took custody of me when I was about 13, 14. Mm-hmm. I never had that conversation with her because I always knew what her response was going to be, right? I knew it. Right? But here I am. here I am, 33 years old, and I just happened to go to see my aunt. Hey, you know what's going on? And she was having a moment, right? She was having a day, like you would say.
Yeah,
she was having a
having a
day.
day.
And she looked at me and she goes, I'm so proud of you. Because of everything that you've been through, you ain't dealing with nothing. You ain't got no issues. I'm so proud of you. You're the one. Literally, you're the one. And it's so funny because it's funny to hear somebody say that, but you know that they already think that. Like I always knew in my mind, and my family have always had this, like you good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was having a day that day, right? But she didn't know it, right? And she was having a day, but it made my eyes water because I'm like, you have
no idea
clue what I've been battling with.
Yeah.
Like, you have no clue. So I said to her, and I'll go there, but I said to her, what do you mean? She's like, you don't really have any real issues. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I said, are you kidding me? I said, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
And I told her, back in about 2016, I believe it was, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, suicidal ideation, anxiety, like literally diagnosed with these things, right? And her response was literally, oh, I'm not claiming that. We're not claiming that. I plead the blood of Jesus. And here I am, right? I always knew that would be her response.
Yeah.
Which is why I've never
shared.
I've never shared.
Yeah.
And I had to stop her in the midst of all of that. And I had to say, stop.
Yeah.
I need you to hear what it is that I'm saying to you, And she literally said, you know what, you're right. Because suicide is a silent killer.
It is.
It is.
It is. It is. It is.
So
I totally can relate. I think this thing, I kind of hate to be called strong.
I'm gonna take a sip of.
I think, sip something, because I think in my family, people look at me, and I've been told even by my brother, like, oh no, you'll be okay. And they tend to other people. I had a conversation with my mom last year, and kind of similar how it came out, because I was seeking counseling, so I was getting healed, but something kind of triggered her to be like, oh, well, you always seem like you know how you are, and you always okay. And I was like, no. So I'm not always okay, but you have to take responsibility for what you've taught me to do. As a 12-year-old, watching my sister die in my arms, and you've never asked me if I'm okay. So now at 40 something, that's how you feel like I function. So nothing bothers me. So at that particular time, I had lost my job for like 7 or 8 months. I was, no job, single parent, having to take care of, the children and everything else, and the weight of the world on my back, really. But you wouldn't think to ask me if I'm okay, because your interpretation is you see me get through everything else. And I was like, but you taught me to be that way.
Because Black women
are strong. And that's like, and I want the listeners to really hear, the Black women that are listening to this.
And it's nothing against anybody else.
No,
nothing.
It's not.
It's just how we
are. Yeah.
But strong is a condition, right?
It really is.
Because think about it, like strong is literally a condition. Because like when you think about it, right? There are functional addicts, right? We diagnose them, they're functional addicts. They may be on drugs, but they could keep a job. They could do this. They could go about their day-to-day tasks.
Yeah.
There are functional depressed people. There are functional people who are drowning inside.
Yes.
There are people, like, you ever hear about, okay, to all the listeners, I'm sure everybody has known someone who was like, who has committed suicide.
Yep.
You ever hear about, oh my gosh, what? I would have
no
never
idea.
Yeah. I would have never even known.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I would have never known. But how comfortable did you make anyone in your life to allow them in that space to be able to express those deepest deepest hurts and pains to you? Like, you know what I mean? Because or what is your response?
Yeah. So I think two things happen. I think the person who's been deemed strong feels like it's a responsibility to be that way. I know that I did. I can't speak for anybody else, but I think that I really wasn't, I don't know that I had the space to be weak, especially in front of people.
But what is weak though?
I know, but again, that was my mindset then of like, you're good. Like I literally used to do this thing to myself, and now I think about it, I'd be like, yeah, you pretty much was a little loose in your head. But like I would like go whatever happened. Again, I've suffered a lot of loss. I mean, like I've lost my oldest son, a lot of loss, and a lot of loss very early. To the point where
You learned to live with it.
I would tell myself, you're good. Like you got this amount of time to be okay, but you have all this other stuff that you need to handle and you can't afford to drop the ball. Like that was my weight and responsibility that I took because that was how I was conditioned. And I've been doing that. I don't really remember a time that I didn't have that. Like I was, and maybe that it is something personality wise that I give off or gave off as a child that made me kind of, made my parents treat me that way. So I think it is part personality, but I think it's also a learned behavior. So you have the person that is trying to be strong. And then you have the people around you, and me and you have kind of tapped on this before, that have the expectation of you being strong, so they don't even know how to
serve
manage
you
or serve you.
So it's so crazy because it's funny that I'm talking about this because I remember wondering when would I get to a space to be okay with talking about this.
Me too.
And it's been this year.
Yeah.
And I have been battling with depression for like 7 years now.
Yeah.
But when I was battling, like in my early stages of depression, I didn't know it was depression. I had no idea what was going on.
Wrong.
Like when I tell you guys that are listening, like I literally had no idea because in my mind, everybody gets depressed, right? You get depressed, like you know what I mean. You hear that all the time, like she's depressed,
like seasonal depression.
Yeah, like not even seasonal depression. She may have lost somebody, or or he may have went through a breakup, or
and you
lost their job, and you
have
a moment. So to me, that's what depression was. Like you have a moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
so
you come back.
I had no concept of what like major depressive order was or any of those other, because it's so
many levels. Yeah.
When I tell you guys, and when I tell you there is levels to depression, like I read, and what happened was, make this long story short, like it's so crazy. I started my nonprofit, so I have a nonprofit out there. It's called We Care, provides educational and recreational activities for youth.
Love it.
So I started my nonprofit, and I was in the corporate world. I was in medical billing and coding, and I didn't know I was depressed, but I was depressed. And what happened was I ended up getting fired, right? I got fired, and I was happy when I got fired, like legit happy. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to figure out my nonprofit, like I'm about to figure this, thing out, this entrepreneur stuff out. And I couldn't get out of bed. But here's the thing.
Wow.
The thing about it is I always worked. Like even before I was an entrepreneur, I was like 48 hours at the hospital. I had a cleaning job. I figured out how to get my own contracts with houses. I cleaned them at night. And then on top of that, I had my nonprofit. When did I have time to fill?
Yeah.
When did I have time to think about anything? So what happened was I lost my job.
Yeah.
That is 48 hours of idle time that I did not have before.
Wow.
So when I couldn't, I literally could not get out of bed. I cried for 2 years straight, and I didn't know why. Yeah. And just to even, just to put it into perspective for you guys, it's so funny. I went on a women's retreat a few years before, once again, not understanding depression. And I remember there was a lady at our women's retreat that was crying, that was so upset. She said she dealt with depression and she didn't understand why she cried so much, and it's all of these things. And I remember thinking well, what is wrong with her? Not judgmental, but I literally didn't understand. And then here it is a few years later, I'm better. And she was afraid. I don't even remember this woman's name, but I just remember that picture.
Yeah. And the connection,
it connected, right? And then I started researching, doing things, reading about depression, because I'm I can't, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
I started to feel what is going on with me? Why can't I focus? Why can't I? But the thing about it is all of these years, I had literally had a job since I was 14 years old. I had worked. I had no space to feel. So dealing with, not having my mother and my father, you know what I mean? Like focusing on making sure I don't become like, cause in my head, if I smoked weed, I would become a drug addict, like literally. So focusing on not being anything like my childhood and trying to navigate and figure out how to not be like or look like what I've been through, right?
Yeah.
So here it was. I had 48 hours and all I had to do was feel. Everything started hitting me, boom. Boom.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like just crying. But the thing about it was I couldn't connect it. And it was like so many things, but balled up in one. So it's like, if you start to feel one thing, it's like everything you start to feel in that moment.
Yeah.
Depression is the craziest thing.
It really is.
That I've ever.
It really is. It's so crazy that you tell that story, because I'm wondering if the listeners can relate, because as you're talking, I can totally relate. I had, like I said, I had lost way too many people, right? And last year, I actually found my aunt deceased in her apartment. And I remember in that moment, like, death has never affected me in the manner that it affects other people. Not that I don't feel, but it was almost like I go into a different mode of things. And I remember that day, because at this point I'm in therapy. I have a awareness of like, there's something deeper than that, right? And I remember talking to the officer, and he kept on asking me, am I okay? And I'm like, I'm good. Like, because now I'm kind of calling this like I'm in this zone that you would
because
just
you're
like,
numb to it, because
I'm
you're
numb. I don't have, it's like I don't feel in this moment. I remember calling my therapist and like telling her what was going on.
And it probably was like nothing.
She was like, are you okay? And I was like, so I'm good. But this is the difference, because I think because of all the trauma that I've been through, again, it feels very different. Death does, right? But I know it bothers me. So I don't allow it to, because my dad's death really brought up all the death that had been around me. I had been just functioning. I'm just like, I'm good. When anybody passes away, I'm the first person kind of that I will navigate that. I wrote my dad's obituary, made all his arrangement. I will do everything.
You'll figure everything out.
Everybody was like, I am literally in amazement of what is going on right now.
Right.
But like after he died, it hit me.
Right.
But it wasn't just that hitting me. It was like a Mack truck of
everything hitting you from
12 years old
at the same time.
And so bad that I had lost a good friend of mine who I had grown up with, who was a guy, 14 years ago. And it just hit me that he died last year. And my kids were like, Mom, what's wrong? It was like he died today.
Because you have not allowed yourself to feel. And we have a tendency to do that. And I wanted to just go back to something that you were saying. Mm-hmm. How you were saying, because we are strong, right? So because we're the strong ones, nobody knew how to be there for me. And in that moment, and when I was dealing, like the people were strong, right? So I have always been the person that everyone called on, and I've been okay with that.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Part of your calling.
That is just part of my calling.
Yeah.
I love it. I am a giver, and I love it. But
still reciprocity.
It's reciprocity, but I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And you understand, like, being able to not receive is a sin. And I had to learn that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that
That's my tough area.
Like, being able to not get when you, or receive when people, like, it is literally a sin. And what happened was, in those moments in my life, because I knew how to show up for everybody else, and because I was the strong person, when I tell you, I lost friends. I'm talking about ace boon coons. I'm talking about like people I thought that I could never see my life without because they didn't know how to show up for me.
Yeah,
they didn't know what is wrong with you. What is wrong with you? Mind you, at the time, in the beginning of that time, I didn't know what was wrong with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure it out, but they didn't even show like empathy. I'm always the one that checked up, called people. And you ever see that meme that is like, don't call nobody and see who called you?
Yeah.
I was the one that always did the reaching out, and I didn't call. And guess what? Nobody called me to see if nobody seen if I was okay.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And like, that is not a good place to be in. Or even I'll say the people that I thought should have been calling me, right?
Yeah.
They weren't calling me to see if I was okay. They weren't calling me to see if I was good or whatever the case may be. And that is a hurt place to be in, because you're like, dang,
Where's
not
everybody
even
at?
right, and not even that you're, when you do for other people, that you're expecting something back.
So I think you do get something back. I think that's a wrong, I don't want to say it's a wrong philosophy, but I think it's something we've been taught, like, oh, don't have an expectation of people. I do, especially
As an
people,
adult now, yeah,
I was about
absolutely.
to say, expectation of those you hold close and that you give to a certain, you know, I had to learn that giver to the heart. Still working on receiving. It's a very tough area for me. Part of it is a control thing. Part of it is just uncomfortable.
Right.
I feel more comfortable kind of giving to people without the expectation of
That
getting
thing.
because I feel like I might not get.
It took me a while to get there, but I don't play those games no more.
No, I still work on it. It still comes up. Let me just say that. I will say that that's something, it has to be a conscious decision for myself. Like, it's okay to receive. Like, it's okay to get back. But I so agree with you. I wanted to touch back on what you said, is that when I look back at my life, kind of being that person that was always there for people, I think even in, not, I want to say to my own detriment, but to a place that I was super duper broken, I was fixing or helping people fix their lives and fix their broken areas, and I was broken.
All right, Yana.
You know what I mean? For real. Like, that's real talk. I was really like giving more to other people than I was giving to myself. And I had to take a couple steps back and say, okay, again, grief and trauma and all of that brings on a different light. And when I got hit with my Mack truck, boom, of like, okay, my dad's gone. You know what I mean? What am I grieving just him? And then it was
You're
all
grieving
this
so
grief
many
and
things.
Trauma and all the stuff that was coming up. And
it's a trigger. It triggers so many things. And I had to learn in the moment of my growth and going to seeking therapy, because that's another thing. I had to seek therapy, and I didn't always have the right. I had to be dedicated to myself and wanting to be here.
That's good.
So I had to say to myself, you are everything for everyone else, but who are you to you?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good question.
You are everything
for the
to
listeners.
like, and honestly, like, who are you to you?
Wow.
You know, and I had to learn how to speak to myself kindly.
Yeah.
I had to learn to reprogram and retrain. And the journey when it comes to the healing and everything, let me tell y'all, it's a never-ending journey.
It's a never-ending process.
It's a never. You know, you're always continuing to work on being yourself. You're always continuing to work on to show up and to, you know, continue through this life. Because let me tell you something, this life stuff, they didn't tell us this in school. They said you could be whatever it is that you want to be when you grow up.
Yes.
They didn't tell us about none of this paying bills. They didn't tell us none of this struggles.
Yeah.
They didn't tell us all, you know, disappointments, hurt, pain. They didn't tell us any of this. They paint a picture, but they don't tell you that it's so blurry.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's good. No, that is 100% good. And I think we don't talk about the one thing I love with my children now. I'm glad that I'm able to give them a different lens to look through. And I wish my parents were more transparent, but I thank God for where they were, if that makes sense, because I think this wouldn't exist if not. And again, how you said being in a place to even talk about this, depression. I have been suicidal twice in my life. And being able to say that even out of my mouth to whoever's listening, right, is like, people will be like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what? No, I've literally like written down, this is what will happen if I'm no longer here. And I was okay with that. You know what I mean? It's a scary place to be. And it's not only for quote unquote, how people say, oh, well, something must be really wrong. No, I'm a functioning, successful, you know what I mean, mom of two. Like, it is a place that I wish on no one, but I love that I was able to get out of it, right? And I love that now I have a space to talk about it, where I'm praying that somebody who is listening, who's even considering, or it's ever gone through their mind, or everybody doesn't have, you know, again, some people don't know that struggle, but I know what that looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like not to want to get out of bed. There was a time in my life, I literally used to pray that the Lord would not wake me up. And every day that I get another day on earth, I thank God for it, because I know that there's somebody else that didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? Who was just as successful, who would have, you said, how is it possible? Like, I'm so grateful that I didn't act on what I was feeling. I'm so grateful that, God really spared my life in one case, that I'm still here and able to talk to the people that are literally suffering in silence. And you don't have to. This space, 100% is the space.
Right.
This is the space to come and be okay without judgment of what people think you are or how other people see you, and be okay with saying, I'm not always good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Every day is not a good day. I don't always feel good. I have been having trouble not knowing what depression was, getting out of bed since I was a kid. I remember in high school, I'd be like, oh, I'm sick. No, you're not sick, boo. You just don't, you know what I mean? I don't feel good. No, it ain't that you don't feel good. But I didn't know what that was. So my heart is to children.
Right.
Because I think about that too, with everything that I endured as a child. What if, you know what I'm saying? Like I would have, taken my life as a child, not knowing. And there's so many children committing suicide. There's so many adults. There's so many successful people that you never think that they're carrying what they're carrying, right? And we have to get more comfortable with being like, I'm not okay.
Right.
And having the right people around us to be able to say that if they can't help you, they know how to get you to somebody who can, right? So I'm just like, I know this is a super heavy topic, right? We both looking at each other, and I'm over here trying to hold back tears, but it's okay to cry. This is a space to cry. I've done a lot of crying. I know what that, you know what I mean? And some days I'm just like, I'll tell Amber, or I'm like, I need a day to cry. Like, and sometimes those are happy tears. I'm a crier anyway. But sometimes those are happy tears. In other cases, it's just like, I'm just grateful I'm not where I used to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think as, I guess for the listeners, one thing I wanted to talk about, you talked about anxiety. And do you still struggle with that? Is that something that still comes up?
I still get very anxious in situations. I get very anxious about more so like my future.
In what way?
Just feeling like I'm not doing enough.
Child, you what? Doing enough?
Yeah, well,
okay.
Or feeling like I'm not where I'm supposed to be sometimes. It's at times, like I have my good days and I have my bad days when it comes to like the anxiety. And even when I am speaking my truth, like before, come in here and
we both have anxiety. So
like just having that pressure, because this is something I just started to talk about because I just think it's levels to your story, right? So I got to a place where I was comfortable with telling my story of the traumas that I've been through, but I was not comfortable with talking about what those traumas produced. So I could tell the story like, yeah, I've been through this, I've been through that, but I wasn't ready and prepared to talk about what those traumas had produced in the moment of the now, in the moment of today, and it came with a lot of shame. That's why, like I came here because, I feel like God stretches you, right?
Yeah, He does.
When is your time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When is your time, and when you're ready, even when you're not ready. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't fully feel ready sitting here right now.
Yeah. I don't either. Just so you feel more comfortable. I don't either. Same as you, and not to even cut you off, but I think that when it's time, it's time. And sometimes I put myself aside because I feel like even what we both even shared thus far, that the reason that we were allowed to go through that and still be here to sit here today is that the people that are listening, that will listen to this, won't have to take the same roads, won't have to know that there are people like me. I wish somebody would have told me when I was younger, or told me like, no, I feel like that too, right?
Yeah.
I wish there was a space. I wish there was a something on the radio that said, hey, are you having trouble getting out of bed? This is what that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wish there was a space for me, and with somebody who looked like me, or who I looked up to. So I think what we're doing is a step to healing.
Right.
Right. And like you mentioned earlier, it's a huge process to heal. And I think this is our first avenue to that. And who knows where it will lead? You know, who knows, will we ever know who lives we save?
I don't think that, so I feel like God gives assignments, right? So I used to be one of those people, like, if you know me personally, I literally have a story for everything, right? And I used to hate being the person that had a story from everything. I promise you, like, my closest friends and my 3 best friends that have been my friends since I'm talking about diapers and walking, I always say to them when we joke, and I say, if you guys were not my friends to be able to attest to the things that I've been through, nobody would believe the stuff that I've been through. So when I think about the things that I've been through, there was a point in my life that I felt angry at God because I felt like, God, why me? Like, I'm telling you, I done been in jail. I done did it. Like, when I say I done been there, done that, wrote the book, abusive relationships, you know what I'm saying? Not having my dad, like, you know, it's everything. Both of my parents being drug addicts, like growing up where the toilet didn't even flush. Like, I've been there. I've done it. Like, I have been assigned this story, right? So I used to be like, God, why me? And now that I'm in a healing
part
phase,
of my book. I
really,
think I'm gonna need you. Yeah.
So I used to be like, God, why me? But then when I go through moments of like healing, I was like, okay, God, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing, because if I did not go through these things, if these things did not happen to me, and if they didn't happen, who would I be helping?
Yeah.
How would I have to be able to connect to people?
Yeah.
I could connect to people who have been in abusive relationships. I could connect to people who have drug addicted parents. I could connect to people who have suicidal ideation, who tried. Like, I could connect to people because of the things that I've been through. So then I go into the moments of gratitude where it's like, okay, God, I'm grateful, right?
Yeah.
Because had I not been through to get through, I would not be able to help other people through.
Come on,
and
now.
That's my service to this world.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Come on, that's good. I love that. I love it. But I think that's an amazing way to look at it. My pastor used to say, like, you see the glory, but you don't know the story.
Woo!
And I always think about that, because the level that you're going is always sometimes the level of pain. Like, sometimes that level of pain that you've gone through. Because I often feel like that. I hate when people are talking. I'm like, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But I don't never get offended. I need the Me Too's.
Yeah, but I was about to say, the Me Too's make me feel more normal, because I think I grew up thinking that were in spaces in my life like I was the only one, and I'm the only one struggling with this. I'm the only one who is having a problem getting out of bed. I'm the only one who's smiling in public and crying on my way home. I'm the only person that's crying for weeks and weeks at a time and can't get it together and gotta, pull it together and put on whatever mask that is to be able to function. You know what I mean? And so I do love the Me Too's, and I love that God has allowed us to be able to be in a place that we can share. Like,
transparency is hard. Vulnerability is hard. And I have not always been at this space. Like I said, I was at a point where I was okay with telling a portion of my story. Yeah. And my story is still being written.
I was about to say, I'm still not fully comfortable. But
I'm still not fully comfortable, but like, shout out to my best friends. Both of them are, I have 3, but 2 of them are therapists. 3, another close girlfriend of mine, they're therapists. I'm like, God knew what he was doing surrounding me with.
I know that's right.
With therapists and psychologists, and y'all got all these letters after y'all name and all of that other good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because shout out to them. But what's so crazy is that, he knew that I needed people like that, And I'm going to be honest, like, I've had intimate conversations with them. Like, they know me sometimes better than what I feel like I know myself. And they said to me, I don't know how you've gone through the things that you've been through and you're still here. Which then lets me know, like somebody just, I'm built different.
Yeah.
Like I'm
what my shirt say?
built not broken.
Built not broken.
Built not broken.
Yes.
Shout out to Be Inspired.
Shout out
Built
to
not
Be
broken.
I actually, I love that, you know, I wore this for this episode for that reason, because I think that everything that we've gone through, and I love that you even kind of put it on a shirt, this is what we've gone through. We've been built broken through, unfortunately, it's all
the trauma, all the pain, all the hurt, all the disappointment.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. You are built for this.
Yes.
You are built for this.
We are.
And a lot of people don't understand when it comes to like the depression and when it comes to the suicide and all the other stuff. Like, let me tell you something. People who deal with suicide, it's not that they don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel pain anymore.
I was about to say they don't want to feel anymore.
They don't want to feel.
It's not death.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
You know, and I often have this conversation with my therapist, and like Built Not Broken was produced. Wow. Today has been a year since I started Be Inspired.
Has it?
It has been a year since I sold my first T-shirt and Built Not Broken.
And you didn't even know that. Look at God.
But what happened was it came up on my on my Facebook. I was like, you know, I be doing a lot.
Yeah.
So it came up on my Facebook reminders like sold out my first 30 shirts. That's so crazy.
That's so crazy.
And Built Not Broken was produced from a space that I was, a very dark space I was in last year. Mm-hmm. And you know, last year Sunday, it'll be a year. Like I almost lost my life. Not unbeknownst to me though. Like I went to the hospital for one thing. Mm-hmm. And when I went to the hospital, the doctor literally said, had you not come in here today, you would have died.
Wow.
Within the next 20 hours because X, Y, and Z would have happened. And I didn't even know. I had no pain. I had no nothing. I had to be rushed to emergency surgery in the middle of a pandemic. I had nobody there with me. It was just crazy. So Built Not Broken was produced from that. It was, wow. That's wild, right?
I love it.
Today is a year. That is so crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm sorry I got off topic. No. That just hit me because I was like, wait.
That's on topic. What you mean? No, that's 100% on topic. It's just, I think it's only proof that God uses the broken places to just take us to a different level. And we would never think, if I think back to all the painful places, right? Depression, suicide, just all these different, you know, traumas and griefs. I'm just like, some days I'm like, I thank you. And I know this sounds so crazy, but I'm grateful for the pain. Because what it produced and what it built is so much more.
It's so much greater than you.
It's so much greater.
And when you figure that out.
Yes. Once you are able to see that, I just pray again. I pray for the people that are listening, the quote unquote strong women who are listening, who feel like they have the weight of the world on their shoulder. The men who feel like they don't have a space to say, I'm not okay. I think so often for men, it's so much harder just in a regular space to ask for help, to say that something is wrong because they're men, and it's this kind of thing behind it, like men are just good, and they're not. They're not. And even the children in this pandemic who are dealing with, you know, I check on my kids often. I have what I call check-in meetings with them, or check-in brunches, because you got to feed them. But just to do a check, like I ask those questions. Our babies are struggling because I know that we're living in a new world, and I know it's hard for us, but it's also hard for the child. Kids. The children that are out here with, you know, the normal activities that they have and just normal things that they were used to doing that they can no longer do, that doesn't feel so normal, and just being for the outgoing child who now has to be in more than out. You know what I mean? It's
been a struggle for our kids. Like I work with kids, just for them to be able to adapt. Yeah. You know, you got to understand, people have to understand, we took them from a place of where they had structure, right? They had like a schedule, and then they kind of were stripped from that. And then they're forced to be sat in front of a computer or a laptop at a certain amount of hours a day. Kids up to teenagers, up to high schoolers, they need to do stuff. They need movement. You have to catch their attention. And not only that, it's very difficult for them to be that disciplined to sit there in front of a computer. It's, you know what I mean? For
And
that
even
many
the babies,
hours.
they're asking to do that. That's
The babies,
thing.
and
Yeah.
not only that, like relationship, them not being able to be social.
Yeah.
You know, that social and emotional learning piece is so
huge.
imperative
Yes, it's
to the
huge.
growth of who they are and who they will become.
Yeah.
You know, so our babies are struggling. I am happy, you know, that we are getting back to some form of normal, a new normal.
Yeah.
They are going back to, you know, in school sessions and stuff like that. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I don't care if it's a couple days a week, just to give them that feel of some type of normalcy and connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, our babies are struggling too. We've all struggled, but our babies are really struggling.
They are. Check on your babies for real. I know that, you know, for some people it's convenient to have the kids home, and I have, you know, of course I have 2 boys, but personality wise they're very different. So my younger son is the social butterfly and loves to kind of be out and kind of doing stuff. And I've seen him kind of turn into he's very comfortable at home now. And it was a little bit
like, we got to go outside.
I'm like, come on, get outside. Let's do a little bit of, you know, something. And luckily, you know, sports and stuff are starting back up, but definitely concerned because I know that's not necessarily his personality. He likes to be outside and kind of doing stuff. And again, when the pandemic was at its height, he couldn't.
Right.
So, and of course, I'm super protective of that. Where my oldest son, he's still too, even in college, he's not getting the true college experience. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And he's an athlete, so he's been on campus, but it's not the normal on campus experience.
So the year that the pandemic, last 2020, I had 13 graduating students from my program. They had been in my program since they were middle schoolers. I got so many phone calls about not being able to go to prom, not being able to go to a graduation. That is traumatic. Where you feel like you have worked your whole entire life. Right. And now they are young adults and they don't get to see the things that they feel like the fruits of their labor. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's been very tough, you know. Very, very tough on all of us.
Yeah, it has. But there is, I think, the highlight to this, because though we want to talk about mental health and therapy and all of that, there is a brighter side to it.
It is.
And there's help available. I actually, probably going forward with the exchange, I really want to do more interaction with the listeners. And if anybody is struggling, especially not just this month, but just in general, please DM us.
Reach out.
Please reach out. I have a heart for people in those places, because we are heart people.
I love that word, heart people.
Yes.
Well, I love that term.
Yes, because I know what it is to be there, and I'm not in a place, or I pray that I never get in a place that I don't realize, or I'm not available to help or even point you in the right direction. I'm so grateful for my therapist. I'm so blessed that I was able to connect to her, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to have that ear that listened and didn't see just strong Deb, you know what I mean? And take that place, but really saw me, and she's cheering me on. I talked to her before I even came on today, and she's just like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, we have to talk about this, because I realize the importance, and I realize that people are affected and suffering in silence. And there are people like you know what I'm saying? Like, and me, that are out here and available to, you know what I mean, exchange with them and pour in or point you in the right direction if we don't have all the tools to give you. I'm in school to be a therapist. Hey. Because I just feel like I just, for those who I can, you know, help in that sense, and not just on this platform, but I would love to be able to help people on a different level, and it's so important. So
it is. Yeah. I want to say that I challenge the listeners, you know, to
challenge them. Go ahead.
I want to challenge the listeners to ask for help or to talk to someone. I want to challenge the listeners to break the cycles of whatever their norm has been over these years. I decided to break my silence in a sense, because I was suffering in silence.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to give them another challenge. I challenge the listeners to check on the person in your life that you deem strong.
Oh, that's good.
And make sure they're okay.
Like really okay.
Like really okay. I'm
really
not talking about like,
yeah,
hey,
I'm good.
You good? No, I mean like, are you really
good?
And that's why I ask people, how's your heart? More than anything, because I know what it is to look great on the outside and be crushed in the inside.
And you know what? That's not to cut you off, but that's actually another reason why I started to, because I know that I do have people that look at me in a certain light, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I felt ashamed to share this part of me, because I didn't want to show that part of me and look weak. But I know that I have an influence out there to show people that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to have those internal struggles, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Are you working on it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what seeking help looks like, and what not having a good day, and, you know, or having a bad moment and recuperating from that moment to not allow it to, you know, ruin your entire day.
Absolutely.
You know, what it looks like to heal, what it looks like to process things, you know? So it's like, I decided to talk about it. And this is my first year talking about it. So
I love it. I'm glad that you decided to bless us with the talk about it. Cause like you said, transparency and vulnerability is such a scary place, right? You don't know how people are going to receive it. You don't know if you're ready. So I'm grateful that you trusted us enough and you felt like this was the space for you to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And you, believe it or not, you've helped me in a place you don't even know, be able to share more freely in that place, because I'm no different than you. You know what I mean? We share.
And we're no different than anybody out
and
there.
And anybody else that's listening. So I thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I know that you have some amazing things coming up that I want you to share with the people. And then if you will bless us, because listen, B is, when I say she has layers, I call them parfait, because she has so many layers. She's not just this or that. She is this and that.
Oh, I love that.
So she got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. She do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I'm surrounded by people who are so gifted and talented. And I want people to know that there are people who may struggle with this, but on the bright side of that,
it's always a silver lining.
Yeah, look at the amazing stuff that you are doing. So will you just share with the listeners kind of what you have coming up? And then I think she's going to bless us with a poem, y'all.
A peep, okay.
I think she is.
You just gonna put me on the spot.
She's so cute.
You know what? So what I have coming up, I'm actually in a play.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm in a play.
I'm coming.
So I'm in a play May 2nd.
What's the play called?
It is called he's gonna kill me.
Don't kill her, because I just put her totally on the spot.
It is called an interview of a foster child.
Oh wow!
An interview of a foster child. It's so dope. Shout out to my guy Ambition, the poet. I love him.
Shout out to him.
Ambition is one of the dopest people that I know. He's probably like gonna kill me right now because I'm supposed to be on rehearsal.
Ambition, please don't kill her, because
don't kill me, Ambition.
She's here doing her work.
Okay. But also, so shout out to everybody that's just been in the community that supports me. You know, back by popular demand, August 2020, the community day will be back in full effect. You know, with COVID restrictions and gear. Okay. You know, but
gotta do something for the kids.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. And I get it. And we're supposed to have COVID restrictions, but when we're gonna have COVID restrictions, but we cannot continue to just be cramped up in the houses and stuff. Yeah. You know, we'll have COVID restrictions, and, you know, we'll have the sanitizer and, you know, your mask and stuff is going to be outdoors and stuff like that. So the community day, I do a community day every year up until like last year.
And where's that located?
It's going to be, it's far from here, girl.
That's all right, because we got listeners a little bit of everywhere.
We sure do.
Yes, we do.
Hello. Hey, listeners.
Hey,
it's going to be in Newtonville, New Jersey at the Martin Luther King Center. And it is a really, really big park. And we're going to have everything from, you know, games for the kids, book bag giveaways, gift card giveaways, everything. Like, we have something for everybody. Free haircuts, face painting, everything.
I love it.
It's always 300 to 500 people that show up.
Okay.
We've never done anything less than 300 people. And it's an amazing event. And I'm gearing towards September 2020 to have my first women's empowerment event. Okay. So, you know what I'm saying?
Sign me up.
Come brunch with Be Inspired AIDS.
Ew, I like that.
Be Inspired brunch. But yeah, so, you know, just if you guys, you know, could follow me and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm going to you share with the listeners, but also on YouTube and everything. And when we post this, we'll put it all in there for you so you can get in contact with her. She has some dope clothing. She's doing some amazing stuff in the community. Let's
my babies, with the kids. I love my kids, y'all.
Yeah.
You guys, you can follow me at Miss We Care. That's at MSWECARE. And you can find everything else from my page on Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm just Brenda Phillips.
AKA B.
KB, yeah. So you wanted me to share it. It's funny because I'm going to share something real quick. You had said to me, because I was like, I don't know if I want to share, right?
Yeah.
And you said, well, if you feel led to share.
If you feel led to share.
And let me tell you why I feel led to share it. And I felt like it was confirmation. The entire time during this conversation between me and you kept singing the first line in my poem.
And what is that?
Don't suffer in silence.
Oh, shoot. Look at how
So
God
I was like, wow. Like she kept, and you didn't even know you were saying it. You kept saying it. So I'm just going to share a piece of this. I never named my poems, y'all. It might be like the crazy creative part of me.
Yeah.
So this is all right. Don't suffer in silence, they say. But every time I gained enough heart to pour out what's been weighing heavy on my heart, I would be met with the awkward silence. A subtle resistance of uncomfortableness and a response from someone who just doesn't get it. And maybe they wanted to, but just didn't know how. So immediately that would cause me to withdraw, regretting that I said anything at all. So I'm fine. No, girl, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm okay. Has become the biggest lie that I ever told. When you ask me how I'm doing, do you really want to know? Because truth is, I'm talking myself off a ledge every day, trying to convince myself of reasons on why I should stay. Telling God that I'm sorry as I will cry and pray, hoping all my good deeds of love is enough to still get me through heaven's gates. Lord, please forgive me, there's nothing more that I could take. My life continuously playing episodes of reruns on life's pain. I'm fucking drained. Do you know what it's like to be in a room full of people? You know that you're visible, but they don't really see you. Do you know what it's like to plan your own demise? You picked out the perfect place and thought of the least painful way to die. Do you know what it's like to write a letter to your loved ones saying goodbye? Do you know what it's like to make an attempt on your own life? But don't suffer in silence, they say. But tell me, how do you begin to talk about something that you can't even explain? You can't go to your family and friends because the answer to everything is just pray. As if my tears haven't been introduced to countless pages in the Bible and search of scripture to help me find my way. Psalms 147:3 says that he heals the brokenhearted and he binds up all wounds. But if there's any truth to that, then why does it feel like I'm bleeding through? You are strong, they say. You are strong, they say. You are strong, I say. You are strong, and that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not. I'm done.
She got me crying on here, y'all, because wow, what a blessing. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
God.
you. I pray that saved somebody's life because I felt that.
Stop.
I felt that. So I just thank you because I thank you for my tears because I'm crying now and people could actually see me because we on YouTube and being But no, I thank you for that. And I pray that saves somebody's life, that they know that somebody else feels them because I felt you.
My words would change the world.
They will change the world. I love that. So you guys, until next time, this this month is going to be a heavy month, and we got heavy hitters coming through who are really sharing transparently. We thank Brenda. I'm going to thank her for you because she just blessed me. So I pray that she blessed you. And we will see you next week.
Hey.
Hey.